The Zephyrian Council chamber buzzed with nervous energy as Admiral Kethvar reviewed the reports flooding in from across the galaxy. Each transmission carried the same impossible message. The humans had done it again. Explain to me, Kethvar's mandibles clicked in agitation, how a species that barely mastered faster-than-light travel 3 centuries ago managed to breach the Omega quarantine zone. Commander Wylix, her chitinous exoskeleton reflecting the chamber's amber lighting, pulled up the holographic display. The massive red barrier encompassed an entire star system, a tomb that had remained sealed for over 10,000 years. The warnings were clear. "Admiral," she began, her voice carrying the weight of disbelief, posted in every known galactic language, including their crude Earth standard. "Extreme danger, Omega-class pathogen, entry forbidden by Galactic Accord 7749. The display showed the quarantine gates, massive energy barriers that had withstood meteor impacts, stellar radiation, and even attempts by the ancient progenitors to breach them. Each gate bore symbols that translated roughly to "death awaits beyond," and they just walked through? Kethavar's secondary arms twitched, a sign of extreme stress among his species. "Not walked, sir. They knocked." The silence that followed was deafening. In the 10 millennia since the Omega Zone had been sealed, no species had been foolish enough to even approach the barriers. The pathogen within had consumed an entire civilization, being so advanced, they made current galactic powers look like children playing with stone tools. "Show me the recordings." The hologram shifted to display grainy footage from the nearest monitoring station. A human vessel, crude by galactic standards but undeniably effective, approached the first gate. It was a mining ship, according to the transponder, the kind humans used for asteroid harvesting in their home system. The ship stopped precisely 1 kilometer from the barrier. Then inexplicably it transmitted a standard hailing frequency. "Attention, gatekeeper people," came the translated message in a distinctly human accent. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the mining vessel Lucky Strike. We've got some folks here who are real sick, and our computers say you've got medical facilities in there. Mind if we come in? We brought coffee." Elix paused the recording. "They offered to trade coffee for medical assistance, sir, to a 10,000-year-old quarantine barrier." "What happened next?" The recording resumed. "The barrier remained unchanged for several minutes. Then impossibly a small section flickered and opened, just wide enough for the human ship to pass through. The ancient systems responded to them." Elix continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "Technology that hasn't acknowledged any signal in 10 millennia opened up for a human mining captain offering coffee." Kethvar's primary arms gripped the command console. "And inside? That's where it gets interesting, sir." Elix pulled up internal sensor readings. The humans made contact with the Omega pathogen within 6 hours. Every being in the council chamber held their breath. The Omega pathogen had been a nightmare scenario, a sentient disease that consumed knowledge itself, turning its victims into mindless husks while absorbing their memories and technologies. "The humans were infected immediately," Elix continued, "but instead of being consumed, they started talking to it." "Talking?" "Yes, sir." Captain Chen's medical officer, a Dr. Marcus Webb, apparently sat down with the pathogen and explained human immune systems. In detail, for 14 hours. The display showed communication logs, pages upon pages of medical jargon, biological diagrams, and what appeared to be vacation photos from something called Earth beaches. The pathogen had never encountered a species that treated disease as a conversation partner, Ilix explained. "Humans, apparently, have been living with viruses and bacteria for so long that they instinctively try to negotiate with pathogens rather than simply fear them." Kethvar stared at the data streaming across his screens. "Are you telling me that humanity cured the Omega pathogen through small talk?" "Not cured, sir. Befriended. The pathogen is now calling itself Steve and has requested passage to Earth to study the fascinating human digestive system in a non-invasive capacity." The Admiral's compound eyes focused on the final report. "And our response?" "The humans have invited the entire Galactic Council to a meet-and-greet barbecue with Steve next Tuesday. They're serving something called hot dogs, and promise the pathogen won't consume anyone's knowledge without permission." Kethvar leaned back in his command chair, a gesture he'd learned from observing human diplomatic footage. 3 centuries of contact with humanity, and they still found new ways to casually terrify the rest of the galaxy. "Send our acceptance," he finally said, "and prepare a diplomatic gift." "What should we bring, sir?" "Coffee," Kethvar replied, his mandibles clicking in what might have been amusement. "Apparently it opens doors that have been sealed for 10,000 years. As reports continued to flood in, one detail stood out. Every human who had entered the Omega Zone was wearing casual clothing. Captain Chen's final log entry noted that the crew had treated it like a Sunday outing to meet the neighbors. The galaxy had learned, once again, that humans didn't see barriers. They saw invitations to knock and introduce themselves. And somehow, the universe kept answering the door.